Good afternoon and welcome back. I love to read books, and when I come across one that is well written, I like to share my thoughts about it and encourage my clients to read it as well. I recently finished a book by Dr. Kelly Brogan titled A Mind of Your Own. Kelly studied cognitive neuroscience at MIT before receiving her MD from Weill Cornell Medical College. Board certified in psychiatry and psychosomatic medicine and integrative holistic medicine, Kelly is one of the only doctors in the nation who has these qualifications. And I just love the way Kelly writes. She's very knowledgeable, explains things well, and her ideas are spot on. I'm in full agreement with nearly everything she says. To sum up what she says in her book, mental issues are not the chemical imbalances that Big Pharma, as she refers to the pharmaceutical industry, have convinced everybody they are. She goes into great detail explaining how so many other factors play into what we know as mood disorders, namely stress and depression. She focuses first on food intolerances and the inflammation they create, and that just makes sense to me. I used to think that gluten intolerances or our body's reaction to processed foods and sugars was just a bunch of BS. But now I'm a true believer. After running many experiments on myself, there's not a shred of doubt in my mind that everything Kelly is talking about is true. If we're having an inflammatory response to something we ingest, our bodies are going to respond with an autonomic reaction, essentially invoking the sympathetic nervous system, more commonly known as fight or flight. Now, I've preached for years that stress and depression are really the same in terms of physiology. In other words, the blood chemistry of a stressed individual would be no different than that of a depressed individual. Both would be high in cortisol, adrenaline, and epinephrine, and relatively low in serotonin, dopamine, and acetylcholine. Kelly, in so many words, says exactly the same thing. She has great street cred in my book as well, because she's a psychiatrist and she's come from the dark side, the big pharma side, and is now an integrative psychiatrist. And I use that word because it has both the meaning of integrating novel ideas from many disciplines, and it has the meaning of integrity, practicing what you preach. She does both, for certain. Now, I will likely refer to many parts of this book as time goes on, but I want to pay special attention in this segment to chapter number 7, The Power of Meditation, Sleep, and Exercise. In this chapter, she's really speaking my language. I would put them in the order of exercise, sleep, and meditation simply because of the three, exercise holds such an important place in obtaining and maintaining optimal physical, mental, and emotional health. One might argue that sleep is more important, and it may very well be, but sleep is not something that you can opt out of. You may not sleep all that great, and certainly we can learn ways to get more out of our time in bed, but when you're tired enough, you will fall asleep. Maybe not right away, and maybe not for how long you want to, but you will fall asleep. Exercise is not the same, in that you really can opt out of it if you don't want to do it. The problem with exercise is that most people simply don't do it. Now, Kelly makes a compelling case for exercising. She states, I view exercise as one of the pillars of radical change, one of the behaviors that we can expect to yield so much more out of than the sum of its parts. We're designed to move, to sweat, and to commune with our physical selves in this active way. Exercise is an antidote for almost everything that ails us. It improves digestion, metabolism, elimination, body tone, and strength, bone density, and it helps us normalize weight. And she goes on to say, the following benefits of exercise have long been proven scientifically. Increased stamina, strength, flexibility, and coordination, increased muscle tone and bone health, increased blood and lymph circulation and oxygen supply to cells and tissues, more restful and sound sleep, balanced hormones, stress reduction and mood stability, increased self-esteem and sense of well-being, release of endorphins, brain chemicals that act as natural mood lifters and pain relievers, decreased food cravings, decreased blood sugar levels, and risks for diabetes, ideal weight distribution and maintenance, decreased or increased brain health, sharper memory, and a lower risk for dementia, increased heart health, and lower risk for cardiovascular disease, decreased inflammation, and risk for age-related disease, including cancer, and increased energy and productivity. And then she goes on to explain that exercise can be a biological insurance plan against the bodily effects of stress. And she ends the chapter with this: I promise to make this doable even for the most exercise adverse. You'll begin with 5 to 10 minutes of burst exercise, 30 seconds of maximal effort, and 90 seconds of recovery, and work up to 20 minutes 3 or more times a week. I'll give you plenty of ideas so you're sure to find something that you like. Now notice how she says doable. Of course it's doable. But that really isn't the end of the story. It's just the beginning. There is a huge gap between doable and actually doing the exercise. And this is where I come into the picture. My specialty is in closing that gap between doable and doing for a lifetime. Now, I love authors like Kelly. She gets it and she brings it. I could never come close to explaining the things she does in her book the way she does. She hits it out of the park. But I'm not here to compete with Kelly, but rather to work in a synergistic and integrative way to pick up where she leaves off. She creates the appetite for change, and I come in and help to seal the deal. The truth is, and I can demonstrate this statistically, out of all the people who read this chapter on exercise and get excited about what exercise could do for them, less than 2% will actually be exercising 5 years down the road. Now, sure, some readers will immediately get to it and try to implement some of the burst exercises that Kelly suggests, but most won't even get that far. And out of those most who try, only 2% will actually adopt that discipline for good. And that's not because Kelly has not done a great job of creating interest. She absolutely has. It's because being an exerciser requires something far more complex and intricate than what this chapter provides. Building a whole new mindset that supports the discipline of exercising, and then installing this mindset into the operating system of the human brain. This is something Kelly can't help you do in a chapter, because you can't just read about it in a book and automatically own the new mindset. But there is a way to get there without too much inconvenience or expense. I have created 2 series of tapes on exercise, The Exerciser's Mindset and Fade to Black. Both are absolutely free to view on my website. Now, if, after viewing them, you want to actually own the new mindset, you can participate in a process called VQT, Virtual Quasi-Therapy. All you have to do is simply send me a text to get started. That's it. VQT is your personal access to me via a proprietary platform of quasi-therapy that I have personally developed and perfected for closing that gap between doable and doing it for the rest of your life. Click on the VQT tab to learn more about this platform. So, what do you say? Shoot me a text today and start enjoying the VQT experience. See you on the healthy side.